We're so honored to be having a conversation with Sean Penn. It's so rare that somebody can say with all sincerity and authenticity, this is somebody who needs no damn introduction.
Who the hour is in our times. So if there is the hour of, a white male who's had a lot of privilege in America, there's the hour of this, I don't need to fill in the blanks. There's a lot of hours. And to find one that is genuinely at least a reach out from one hour to another is where we enter the part of knowing the times within which we live that we can contribute to. I've always thought that it was never so much, even as an actor also, it was never so much how much we could expand first what we do or what we understand or what we can share, but to recognize our current limitations was the greatest strength of anything that I could find to do creatively.
I think that what storytellers do who are writers is they take that natural instinct and the rhythms of storytelling and apply craft to it and try to make it into something more or less permanent. But it's a very natural thing. And when you see a friend who says, oh, I've got such a story to tell, you won't believe this, there's a little thrill because we all want to hear that.
Can you talk about haunting? Things that haunt you?
I think that one of the things that still kind of amazes me is just being alive.
Yes.
Like, I'm here in this body, in this room. I can't tell you why. Some scientists could tell you what they think. Some religious folks could tell you what they think. But the miracle of this moment of being alive is something I can't fully explain. It seems very like precious and valuable, though I often forget this. But it's this odd experience, I think, that haunts me. This, like, being aware of being alive, being aware of that moment passing. This is one of the reasons that for me I'm drawn to the question of the political. Everything seems in a way political to me because I'm really always kind of haunted by these situations where people, for whatever reason, can't be fully actualized. And something that came to my mind when I was asked to write a review of several books related to the recent racial strife here in America. And one of the things I was trying to do at the beginning of this review is make sense of the history of the racial conflict in America, which means trying to make sense of the very notion of race. And two stories arose at the beginning of this essay that I was trying to get, you might say, like involved in a dance. And one was the story of the history of black skin as presented in the Bible. It was a bit of a mark or a curse. The other is the story that comes from the classics, which is the story of Phaeton, the son of Apollo. And it's another explanation for black skin. And it says simply that Phaeton, anxious to drive the sun chariot before he could actually control it, lost the reins. The chariot came too close to the earth. It scorched the ground and the people, and hence we have Ethiopia. Two very different stories. Two very different notions of what it means to be a person described by those stories.
When I teach creative writing, I feel that I'm meeting young people who are not unlike myself. I identify with the young writers much more than I do with my own self. I don't have much interest in my own self, but I have a lot of interest in the young writers. They're working with material that can be very raw and very sincere and sort of painful and candid.
Now, a couple years ago, my dad apologized for not giving me a more traumatic childhood to draw artistic inspiration from, and I told him he had nothing to be sorry for. Now, good literature should make us understand who we are and where we come from, and I came to a whole new understanding of where I come from. I come from a family of lunatics. Now, several of them are in the audience tonight. And I suspect I'm going to be getting some interesting emails from my dad tomorrow. But in all seriousness, I'm honored beyond words to be this year's recipient of the Simpson Prize. It has already allowed me the freedom to pursue my next novel without distraction or interruption, and it offers the most precious luxury a writer can imagine, the time to sit in a quiet space and work, and hopefully at the end of this, we'll emerge with a book that is worthy of the generosity and faith you have bestowed on me.
We produce an anthology of work from people in our community. So it's Simpsonistas. This is the second volume. And the writers featured in here have written essays, poems, short stories. Our prize winner, shortlisted folks, are Simpson fellows and faculty at UC Berkeley that we work with, our workshop attendees, and Joyce Carol Oates, who's our writer in residence.
5 steps of forgetting. Number 1, it's like this. One day you open your eyes and look right into the sun and don't realize that you're going blind. And even if you did, you wouldn't care. And you don't notice yourself burning while everything around you turns to ice.
Because we could actually envision the benefits that this project would provide to mid-career authors, to students, to student writers, to our Lafayette and greater Northern California community. And so several years later, here we are.
If storytelling is anything, then it's the most important thing. Storytelling has urgency. Storytelling engages us with the most important, urgent issues of the day. And literature that does that is providing not only great service, but pleasure, joy, insight. And, I mean, what's often said about reading is that it promotes empathy, because you see the world through somebody else's eyes.
It's important because it gives you something to base what's going to happen on. I mean, it's like, why is Shakespeare important? And Shakespeare has lasted for so long because there's so many truths in the stories that are told by Shakespeare.
I lived abroad for 13 years in areas where there's not a lot of television, so you read a lot of books, places like Italy and China. So I've always had a love of literature. But when Joe started sharing his ideas about the Simpson Literary Project, I was all in.
The Simpson Literary Project promotes stories and storytelling, writers and writing across the generations, because we need stories for our survival. So we are all about the care and feeding of writers of all ages. So we make one very simple request of you. Tell your story. We're here for you.
Yes. It was a wonderful thrill to be the recipient of the Joyce Carol Oates Prize awarded by the Simpson Literary Project, and a distinct honor to be among such fine finalists as Rachel Kushner, Valeria Luiselli, Sigrid Nunez, Anne Raef, and Amor Tools. The Joyce Carol Oates Prize came at just the right time. I was getting ready to publish a novel called The Other Americans, which is about a family that is brought together again following the death of their father in a hit-and-run accident in the Mojave Desert. As always, I didn't know what to expect, whether the book would find readers, whether it would resonate with people. When I heard about the prize a couple of weeks before publication, it gave me a great boost of confidence as I set out to promote The Other Americans. But the Joyce Carol Oates Prize also did something much more pragmatic, which is that it helped me with work in progress.
I love it when a reader asks about a sentence. It's rare, but they'll ask about a sentence, like how did this sentence come to be? How did you choose to use these words? It takes a lot of courage to embark on a novel. I'm happy with the book in the end, but there were periods of time during that. You know, whenever you hear writers say something took 14 years, like those aren't like sort of happy years of just like rejoicing in the creative process. And you know, as I was writing it, like I would constantly come back to it, sort of like remind myself, like, you know, ultimately what I'm trying to explore is this idea. What is it like to become a physician? And in a way, that's what, you know, kicked much of the book off, was thinking about my time early in training. I mean, even now, these moments where both the thrill as well as sort of the terror of the responsibilities that taking care of someone else entail come into play. And so I think it was exploring that. Mm-hmm. I don't feel, you know, fortunately my life has not been as dramatic and interesting as my protagonist's life. I mean, that's all of us, I'd say. Thank you so much. I'm still so honored to receive this prize, and I'm hoping we'll get to do as many of the projects as have been planned in years past. But I think one thing about the crisis is bringing out new creative ways of interacting with the world. So I think we'll be able to come up with a lot.
People may ask, what is the true meaning of life? What is the purpose of the ocean, sun, and all of God's creations?
I so wish I had been able to meet this amazing group of young women in person, and I still hope to be able to do so sooner rather than later. That said, I think what this experience brought home to us is what has always been true of writing. That when we give words to our experiences, those we live inside us, we are reminded of our fundamental connectedness as human beings.